And hey, I want to let my Boston ARC friends know that Bill Belichick came to the Ohio State Coaches Clinic. So I got to go and see Urban Meyer talk about, from my perspective, from a business perspective, I attended the Coaches Clinic because they were talking about change management. That's how I would interpret it. They called it coaching. But they've got a continuous turnover of people, and they have to adapt their systems to the team that they've got. But it was really neat to see Bill Belichick because even though I can't stand the guy, he does have a history of success, hopefully ethically. But I learned a lot from him, I got to be honest. So I'm Dale Malony. I work at the Honda East Liberty plant in East Liberty, Ohio. And Honda's a neat company because we're not centralized. We really enable the edge. We expect our ideas to come out of the edge. And then we centralize them and diffuse them. So what I'm doing at Honda is developing a model for how we can digitize the edge and then diffuse that model to the region. And we make a lot of cars, and we're right now beginning to launch the 2018 Acura RDX. I hope you see it, like it. Now, when I talk about digitization, I want to talk about context. Now, so I'll use an analogy. I'm an analogy guy. I just can't help but think in analogy. But we're driving our project from the machines from this asset condition information perspective. So it's all about context. Reliability, you need that asset condition information, just like for your body. So if you go into a hospital, the government, actually, I think they're trying to do something good, if we could ever trust them. They know that if they had all of your health information and they could actually get that information into the doctor's brain, if they had it all in one place, the doctor could make a more informed, accurate decision about how he's going to treat you. But we know that just doesn't happen, does it? I mean, all the companies that get that information, they're competing with each other. And that's a problem. So they don't put all that information together in one place. So you would think that in our own companies, we wouldn't make that mistake. We're not competing with each other, are we? But we do make that mistake. I mean, I feel like at Honda, my data is just anywhere and everywhere. And you were talking about we think we have too much data. I'd say it's just the opposite. We don't have enough, but we have a perception that we have too much data because we don't have the systems to get it all together into a coherent form and process it effectively. I call it pirate's treasure because you don't know how to find it. And you've got to like find the guy that's got the map and then the decoder ring or something to interpret it. And in order to get that data, and it's kind of an analogy I use over and over again, and it resonates. So we have all this data inside all these smart devices. We've been putting these things in our plants for years and connecting them, and all we've tried to do for the most part is just get our machines running and running well and make good cars. What we haven't really thought about is that data coming out of all those devices, it's like putting your machine on an EKG, and it tells you the health of your machine. So in our reliability strategy with this asset information is to start gathering all that data and using it to help us understand the health of our machine. And context is king here. We need to get it all together in one place. So that smart controllers are the number one sources. You don't need to go out necessarily. I mean, sensors play a part, but this isn't all about IoT devices. Your VFD or your servo that's already out there, it's got more information than any IoT device you're going to put on something. You just need to capture it. So the process of digitizing really forces the issue of IT-OT integration. From an IT perspective, they think if it's data and you're collecting it into software, it must be their domain. But they don't understand what data you should be targeting. I mean, it's not their domain. So this whole subject matter is forcing this kind of integration. So how you do it is really critical because the people that own that domain have not traditionally been thinking about the importance of all the data and how it is to get it out of there. They haven't really been thinking so much about networking probably, at least in most companies. So you need to start out with training. They need to learn the basics of ICS networking. They don't have to learn how to manage an SDN, at least not yet. We might get to that point at someday in a manufacturing environment. And so product choice is important there too. I mean, if I give somebody a switch where your interface is the command line and they have to remember a lot of codes and it's like typing in your old green screen back in the 80s, they're probably not going to embrace that. They want a nice GUI. It's only going to be a little piece of what they do. They need a friendly field to work in. Hirschman does that real well. They live in that space. So there's very few brands that I'm going to mention, but if I do, it's because I really, really believe it's going to help make your process better. So choosing something that really fits in your domain and helps your people transition is a really wise way to go. You need to have that low latency. I mean, if you've got network latencies at high resolution, all your data is going to be out of order and it's just going to confuse you. You need to put the tools in the place where the people that own these assets, where they can make sense of them. So I won't cover all of these items. You can read it later. I can tell you that what I'm not allowed to tell you about are secret sauce. What we're going to really do to make all of this valuable and comprehensible. If I told you how I'm doing it, it probably wouldn't work for your industry anyways. I don't think there's any other auto manufacturers here. But what you do, how you make it available, how you can make your people understand all this data, that's what's critical, because that's your problem now, and it's going to become 1,000 times bigger problem in the future. After you've got all that, then you can start thinking about analytics. A lot of people, they're thinking about analytics, and they haven't laid the foundation first, so that's a problem. So network health, I said I'm driving this whole project out of a reliability perspective. We want to have a stable plant that puts out high-quality cars at a low cost per unit. Reliability is key to that. So monitoring network traffic is a health indicator. It's like the nervous system of my machine. I need to have a healthy nervous system. So we're working to develop an IT, OT collaborative framework to help people that live in this domain to understand how to become this IT organization or OT organization. We don't have a model so we have to create this model of what that is. So it's a different breed of people. It's people that understand networking and security. It's people who understand how to configure these smart control devices, what's in these devices that matters besides just how to make your machine work. Reporting, I mean, how many machine guys are really thinking about reporting? But when they want to know what's going on, they need to simplify that task. It's all about shifting your attention from the mundane to the intellectual. You want to take advantage of these people's knowledge and skill and not have them just do the mundane. Cybersecurity, we've talked about it. We got hit by WannaCry. We had a plant shut down in Japan. It wasn't even an ICS threat. It's just because we've converged our technologies, it hit us. And because we didn't have the systems in place that IT is pretty good at, we didn't know about that. And to be honest, it hit us. It hurt us. It's in the news. I can't deny it. But the stuff that's coming is actually designed to attack our stuff. It's even worse. So, but what we need people to realize is that, and I think it's been touched on, so I won't hit it hard, controls security issues are different than IT security issues. The threat vectors are different. But what I really want to drive home more than anything else is our priorities. We have to focus on what really matters. I'm not terrified by the Iranian malware because Honda doesn't have anybody that's going at nation-state cyber warfare against us. I'm not going to say that that isn't happening, but the high probability stuff is I just give somebody connectivity to something that they don't need it to, and they can screw it up, and they do. And we don't typically consider that to be a cybersecurity problem, but it is. You have to know that's a cybersecurity problem. And then you can have even worse, and this is the next level of real probability, is you get somebody ticked off and they've got the skill set that I've got, look out. Because I know what I can do wrong, and I don't even want to verbalize it. Certainly not when I'm being recorded. But the overall mission, get this, you want to prevent it. Segmentation and isolation, it's critical. You want to detect what's going on, things like intrusion detection system, logging, Then you want to be able to contain the problem because it's going to happen. Things will happen. You want to contain it. And then you have to have a good recovery plan in place. So, again, context is king. There's a lot of companies that want to give you a way to silo your data out there. And they say, oh, well, you can integrate that with other things. I don't want to do the work to that. I just want to get the data in the first place, all into one place where it can make sense. So if I take my data for my robot to the cloud for a robot manufacturer to do the analytics on it, I don't have that data then to put in context with all the other sources of data that every single one of them can affect whether or not I have a good spot weld. And we do about 50 million spot welds a week at our plant, 3,000 per car approximately. Every single one of them is critical to the quality of our product. And if we have one that's not repairable, we have to scrap that body. I was just telling a story to some folks from Intel and all last night about how we just scrapped 60-something bodies just a couple of weeks ago, because that's what we do. We want to give you a quality product. So context is king. Don't put your data in silos. Don't set yourself up with some integration problem where when somebody changes something, you have to re-engineer it and maintain the system. It just gets too difficult. So I believe in SCADA. And I believe that the new direction with SCADA gives people the power to do this now with the user interface to make sense of this data now. I think that's critical. And you know, you can hardly see this. It's a infant cloud platform trying to duplicate mature SCADA, embrace the edge. I mean, I've looked at some pretty cool stuff with cloud platforms, but I look under the hood and it's pretty empty under there. And you do SCADA, you can do it really well. Now, WinCC Open Architecture is the SCADA software we picked. Who here knows the difference between WinCC Open Architecture and Siemens WinCC SCADA software? Because you work for Siemens. So I can tell you that when we were doing our analysis of which SCADA package we wanted to choose, and I called Craig Gresnick, and I talked to him, he didn't know that WinCC Open Architecture was different. And I jumped to a quick conclusion that he must not know that much about SCADA. And wow, was I delusional, because he proceeded to let me know that he knows more about the SCADA market than anybody I've encountered ever. I mean, he just completely blew me away. So somehow, Siemens managed to keep this a secret. What it actually is ETM's PVSS product that they developed and didn't sell in North America until about 10 years ago. And they bought ETM and renamed it WinCC Open Architecture. They needed it for the New York City subway project. So back before anybody was talking cloud, they basically bought a SCADA system that's kind of like making its own cloud already. It can handle millions and millions and millions of data points. It's massively distributed, and it gave them the ability to control something that humongous and complicated. And it's actually growing pretty rapidly, even though some people refer to it as a product that's in the witness protection program. So I'm helping to try to get the word out, and I'm hoping that they rename it into something like cool and catchy, you know? I mean, because it doesn't even have to describe what it is. Open architecture is cool. You could name it like fruition, and people would probably wonder, hey, what's fruition? So I want them to do a better job. So one of the things that blew my mind about it, they use this thing to control the Large Hadron Collider. I got to go there before Sheldon. It was freaking awesome. So that thing produces like a petabyte of data every few seconds. It's a mind-boggling machine. And I mean, it's gigantic. 10 million plus data points in one SCADA project. It's tremendous, it's cool, it's got the power, it's got the flexibility to let you do just about anything with it. And our team from Honda went there and we met with some people, because if we want to digitize plants, we want to study, okay, they've been doing this for years and years there. They've been upgrading and upgrading and upgrading without breaking it. How many people believe you can do that with other SCADA products? I mean, I think there might be one other that I have confidence in that I could live that life with and not create a re-engineering project every time I need to upgrade. So we went down in the cavern, and they've got an edge data center down there. And I mean, it was just utterly amazing. It's like a warehouse of integrated servers and hardware and switches and all your instrumentation of this gigantic machine that's built with commercial off-the-shelf technologies. It's really pretty amazing, the components that they run their industrial controls technologies. Just millions of data points. And, oh, this strips me out. They use it for safety. A SCADA system that's safety certified. Oh, and it runs on Linux at 40% higher performance than it does on Windows. I mean, I get kind of tired about my machine having Windows problems. Linux, is, when it's done right, I mean, it's not immune, but it's pretty darn ridiculously secure. What I really like and what makes it so good is that it's written in the C++ code base. And this is where I kind of blew Craig's mind, because he's like, I don't think I've ever had a customer talk to me so technically as you are, Dale. You're tripping me out. But, and the C++ code base with this direct API kernel enables it to just be a ridiculously high performance thing. And when you want to get to big data, which is really where we're all talking about going, you need this extreme performance. Did I skip something? No, I didn't. All right. Oh, built on itself? I do have to touch on that. This is really cool. Because so many of the features that in most other products are going to be a binary, but they're actually scripted in this absurdly fast scripting language, you get the power within all those binaries. So it gives you crazy power to do what you need to do to get your job done. All right, so we're talking about IT/OT convergence. For Honda, as I'm building our OT team, I had to come up with a set of proposed roles and responsibilities. We're not there yet. Don't read that right now. But I just wanted to help people out. This is my thought process. This is where we're working on right now about where we need to go. But it has to happen. And it has to be something that's collaborative. We have to somewhat embrace IT without becoming IT, adapt some of those standards, and do things consistently. So here's some of my vacation in Geneva pictures down in the cavern, where they embedded IT and OT together in a way that is so complete and so thorough, where everything is just all in the same racks, that they don't even recommend it. They said, hey, we're academia. The idea that you're going to be able to do this is unrealistic. So I'm not saying you need to intermarry. It's the convergence of technologies, not organizations. So we are not the same. A marriage probably will not work. It works for them, but it may not work for you. We need to learn to work together, though. We need to work across organizational layers in a way that we never have before. Thank you very much.